Carlotta, please stop the recording. We haven't started yet. Okay, so we start. Can you all see my screen?
Oh, no. Hello, welcome to this webinar, Spread the Word Energy Saving Tips. Welcome. I'm really happy to share on this subject this morning with you. So some tips for the management of the webinar. Switch off your microphone and camera. Use the chat if you need to ask some questions during the presentations. The webinar will be recorded, and the recording will be shared afterwards with the registered participants and also the PDF of the presentation. So I will make the introduction of this webinar organized by the Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy Europe. My name is Marie-Laure Falque-Masset. I'm working at the Energy and Climate Department of the Institute Paris region, which is the Urban and Planning Institute of the Île-de-France Paris region. Next slide, please. So what is the menu of the day? So the agenda, after the welcoming, we will have Maria-Angela Luceri from the Covenant of Mayors, a presentation of projects. So the first one, Save at Work by Tekla Enel and Lena Eckerberg. Afterwards, the Fulfill project by Fiona Broker from the Dolores Institute. We will finish by an energy sufficiency game managed by Tekla and Maria-Angela, and we'll at the end make the conclusion of the meeting. So this is the girl power this morning with our presenters. Next slide, please. I would like shortly to introduce what is energy sufficiency, which is the issue, the main of this meeting this morning, in order to be sure that we have the same basis afterwards for the following presentations, the following best practice. So energy sufficiency is an approach that aims to reduce energy and by the same way to reduce resources consumption. So it's not only energy, but also raw materials, water, and so on. And by the way, reduce the GHG emissions through voluntary and organized changes in behavior, lifestyle, and collective organization. This is important to define what is energy sufficiency, which is the demand side mobilization, and to explain it because there is sometimes confusion with energy efficiency, and energy efficiency is also very important, is as important as energy sufficiency, but efficiency aims also at reducing the amount of energy required to satisfy needs, but it concerns technology. By example, insulation of buildings, installation of efficient heating system, or also use of efficient cars. By example, next slide, please. Energy sufficiency, everybody practice, but sometimes we don't put this word on our actions. So there is the first axis of sufficiency, the collaborative sufficiency, that is to say the mutualization of equipments and the mutualization of their use. By example, very easy examples for travel, the public transport, the car sharing, also are a very easy example to understand. So this is the mutualization of the equipments for traveling. In buildings, we have also examples of collective laundries in Germany, by example, in Sweden, and so on. We can find also the shared housing, and heating and cooling networks are also a good example. This is the mutualization of energy distribution and furniture. At work, we can also share the space through third places, co-working offices, and also if you have also file share platform, it is dealing with energy sufficiency. Next slide, please. Another axis of sufficiency is the structural sufficiency. That is to say, creating in the organization of space or of our activities the conditions for moderation in our consumption. When you reduce the distances in order to be closer to work, to shops, and so on, when you organize the city for it, you are in a sufficiency project. There is examples of the 15-minute cities, like in Paris, but it's not the only cities in Europe which is working on this concept. You have also the installation of pedestrian zones, bicycle paths, in order to facilitate the use of bicycle. Donc with the organization of bicycle path network, by example, and in the food issues, if you organize also a territorial food project, installation of vegetable gardens for people, or also managed by local authorities, it is dealing with energy sufficiency. Next slide, please. And another, the last examples are the users sufficiency. How to have the proper use of equipment with a view to reducing consumption. The first example is control the consumption of our heating, of electricity, of the consumption of water, and also of electrical appliances. You have a lot of example of project for targeted to people, targeted to local authorities, targeted to businesses. And as an example, some local authorities have installed pedagogical apartments in order to people to learn eco gesture for energy. And another example is dealing with the mobility. When you organize eco-driving trainings, people will make energy saving. So this is also out management of the use of energy, which is a very important issue, because we all need to be trained when on energy use, energy appliance, and so on, energy equipment. It's not so easy. So this is a panorama. This is a view, an overview of what is energy sufficiency, what is energy savings, demand side management of energy, And now we are going to go through examples, but before I would like to just to finish, you have energy sufficiency resources on our website, the website of AREC and also the website of FEDAREN, which have an energy sufficiency working group. Mariangela, I will give you the floor now.
Before we move to me, if somebody has questions, please drop them in the chat for Marilo. So we can address a couple of questions, if any.
If no question is because everybody has understood
of course
what is energy sufficiency. But if you have questions later, do not hesitate to write them in the chat. And I give the floor, Mariangela.
Thank you. So I'm Mariangela Luceri from the Covenant of Mayors Europe. And today I will focus on the Cities Energy Saving Sprint campaign. The Cities Energy Saving Sprint is a joint initiative of the Covenant of Mayors Europe, the European Commission, in particular of the Director General for Energy, and the European Committee of Regions. The campaign was launched in May 2022 in support of the Repower EU and will run until spring. The main aim of the campaign is to encourage cities and municipalities to reduce their energy consumptions by providing tips on quick and low-cost measures that cities can implement to reduce their energy consumption and increase energy savings, but also providing examples on actions taken by other cities. Furthermore, we want to foment local debates on how energy demand can be decreased, both in the cities and in our private life. Moment, now I cannot. Apologize. Okay. The campaign is one of the initiatives promoted in the fact sheet Safe Gas for Safe Winter of the European Commission. And the campaign focuses on three main areas. We have a toolkit that includes a list of suggestions or tips on how cities can reduce their energy consumption. A repository that includes examples of actions undertaken by European cities in several sectors of our societies, like lighting, heating, and so on. And then videos from European mayors or deputy mayors that share the message of why the campaign is important, why they're promoting the campaign, but most importantly, what their cities are doing to face the energy crisis. On this regard, we have a dedicated playlist on the YouTube channel of the Covenant of Mayors Europe. Here on the screen, you see the cities that have already joined the campaign and that have already shared with us their video messages. As you may see, in the spirit of the Covenant, we try to cover all Europe and have quite balanced geographical coverage of Europe, and also a balance between small, medium, and large cities. All the documents of the campaign and the toolkit and so on are, of course, available on the YouTube channel of the Sprint. On the Covenant of Mayors website. And I would stop talking now, and I just want to share with you a video from Sylvain Godinot, Deputy Mayor of Lyon in France, that joined the campaign to promote what Lyon is doing to face the energy crisis. And in particular, we chose to show you this video because he talks about how the city is aiming at reaching energy sufficiency, that in the video is called energy sobriety. So hopefully you will be able to listen to him. Do you hear the video?
No,
very low. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what I can do. Anyway, the video is in French, so you will just read the subtitles that are in English because I don't know how to increase the volume, sorry.
Donc, pour faire face à la crise énergétique, la ville a construit un plan de sobriété qui a l'objectif de baisser de 10% de consommation d'énergie en une année. Des fois plus vite que les objectifs fixés par le gouvernement. Donc, ce plan de sobriété, elle consistait des mesures d'abord de baisse de chauffage. On a revu la température de chauffe de tous nos équipements. On est maintenant à 19 dans les écoles et les crèches, ou dans les bâtiments administratifs. On voit ici dans le coup de 19 aujourd'hui dans nos bureaux. Un deuxième axe, c'est plutôt accompagner les modifications de comportement avec un renforcement de notre équipe. On a signé la charte SOWAT de RTE pour relayer les moments où il y aura des coupures électriques. On va aussi accompagner les commerçants.
Okay, so I hope you could at least see the video. And here just some links, useful links. So we have a dedicated email if you want to know more about the Energy Saving Sprint, or of course, if you want to join the sprint and promote your actions. And if you're not yet Covenant of members, member of the Covenant of Mayors Europe, please join us, and here are the links. Now, before we pass the floor to Tekla and Lena, Marilo, I see that on the chat we have a question that I'll ask you to answer. So,
okay, thank you very much, Mariangela. Thank you.
So how, according in your opinion, the experience of you can support creating best and effective solutions of energy sufficiency for poor and developing countries of Africa, Asia, and Latin America?
Wow, what a question. Just before answer this question, I will go back to the video of Mr. Gonino in Lyon, just to say that in the translation in English, it is written sobriety. So just to say that sobriety is sufficiency. Sobriety is a French word. So what you can use both if you want, it's not a problem. And he highlighted something very important. Sufficiency will be a big pillar of for tackle energy crisis this winter, and the measures of decreasing temperature, cut public lighting during the night are interesting measures to develop by local authorities through Europe. And you can find this kind of measures in the Energy Saving Spring initiative, as Mariangela told you, and you can find everything, yes, in this on this website. Concerning the question, so the question is the question of Samuel Yerus. According to your opinion, the experience of you can support best and effective solution for energy. Yes, sure. I know that the European Union have cooperations with some developing countries. I know that there are a lot of programs. for many years with Africa, Asia, Latin America, and they are working on this for a long time, especially yes, and also in program funded by European Union. I don't know the names of the program, but I think we can find this afterwards and send you this information. I think there's no other questions. So now we have the presentation of the Save at Work project by Teklainen from Enel from Berlin and Lena Egbert from Southeast Sweden Energy Agency. So I give you the floor for this presentation of this project.
Thank you very much, Marie-Laure. It's a great pleasure to present today the Safe at Work project to you. Unfortunately, I have some reconstruction works here, so don't be disturbed by some noises that might come up. So habits and behavior are, from my point of view, central aspects when it comes to energy saving or energy efficiency or energy sufficiency, as we heard. They can be, on the one hand, the biggest problem if you are stuck in very energy consuming patterns. But on the other hand, when you choose low energy behaviors, they can be most efficient supporters of energy sufficiency in daily life. And that's exactly what Safe at Work was about, to promote and enforce supportive habits that enable energy sufficient behavior in the long term. This next slide, please. The specific focus of this project was laid on office buildings, and we worked in 9 EU countries with 176 office buildings, and in total with more than 70,000 employees. As you can imagine, the influence of behavior change was not limited to the work in the office building, but also reached into the private sphere and to the families. The entire project was implemented from February 2015 to September 2017, and we had a one-year competition from March 2016 until February 2017, and the project was funded under the Horizon 2020 program. Next slide, please. The partner consortium was composed by 9 very experienced and engaged experts organization. Lena from Energiekontor Südost will, in the second part of this presentation, give you insights to very convincing examples of saving measures. Next slide, please. We had 4 very clear objectives in the framework of the project. Of course, as always, we aimed at measurable energy, CO2, and cost savings. And this should be achieved by improving the energy competence of public sector employees and motivating them to adopt energy efficient or energy sufficient behavior at the workplace and make them a long-lasting and very strong habit. Public authorities should be empowered to fulfill their function as a role model. And finally, we wanted to use the results of the project to provide advice to improve the effectiveness of behavior change at the workplace. Next slide, please. But how did we motivate employees to adapt energy efficient habits? And what were the main drivers? So the first and most important feature of the project was a competition between the different participating office buildings. Mostly all of us like the playful element of competition. And so saving energy and adopting new habits is connected to something positive, and ambition is encouraged. The teams of the different office buildings competed against each other on country and on EU level to save energy. Being part of a team is a strong motivator. Nobody wants to let its team down, and therefore there is a high engagement for this common goal. But it is very important that the new behavior needs to be easy, or at least not more difficult to implement than the old behavior. The fun factor is an important aspect. Saving energy should not be seen as a negative loss, but as a playful enrichment. To foster this, tailored advice is necessary. The teams in the buildings received energy saving tips or advice tailored to their individual needs, and in order to support and increase their engagement, but also with the intention to improve their competence. Next slide, please. And finally, feedback mechanisms are also key. We provided a calculation tool, so that means that teams can enter their consumption and control savings, so the employees could see what they have achieved so far and that their engagement really made a difference. Today, this can be done with smart meters, but at that time, we used a specific calculation tool. On this slide, you can see that the competition itself was structured in two different phases. In the beginning, the core energy team was formed, and it was very important that they and the competition itself received support from high-level management so that all employees of the office building feel confident in engaging in common activities. The energy team was trained to be able to fulfill their new role, for example, in energy saving measures, in communication, in campaigning, and so on. And afterwards, they elaborated and adopted an action plan for their buildings. This was supported by an analysis on the status of the building. After this preparation phase, the real competition started. During this phase, the action plan was implemented and a campaign to involve all employees was realized. All colleagues were regularly approached to keep attention and motivation high. This was supported by the project with saving tips and campaigning materials. And regular controlling and communication of results was part of the competition. In the end of the competition, teams were awarded, and the energy teams that made the greatest energy saving from each country, together with their respective city representatives, were invited to an event in Brussels. Here, the first 3 European winners were announced and awarded. Next slide, please. The toolbox of measures included both behavioral activities and technical measures at a non-investment or low investment level. Lena will go into detail later on about the most successful measures. Here you can see an overview of all these measures. In light blue, we have the behavior measures like CO2-friendly breakfasts, caretaker rounds, involvement of cleaning staff, and also a small exhibition which was presented to the staff. And on the more technical side, very energy-consuming appliances were disconnected, the heating was optimized, and printers were reduced and centralized. Everything was tailored to the individual needs of each building. Next slide, please. And the results were very convincing. As I already said, we worked with 9 countries in 176 office buildings with more than 70,000 employees, and the energy team members were more than 800. And all participating buildings all over Europe saved 5.8% of energy. The highest saving is an average. The highest saving was 25%. We saved 6.5 million kilowatt hours, more than 1,700 tons of CO2, and finally more than 400,000 euros. So I think this is a good example. And now my colleague Lena, I will hand over to her, will present you activities, campaigning materials, and some results, more details. Thank you very much.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Lena Eckerberg, and I will give you more details. So a short overview of the actual tools that we used, and give you hopefully some ideas how you can replicate some of this in your organization. Next slide, please. As Tekla mentioned, the energy team was the core of the to keep the speed forward. So we know that offices use a lot of energy. And that's mainly for heating, lighting, equipment. And for many offices, the energy costs and carbon emissions can be substantial. So as Tekla said, Save at Work was about making changes in our everyday energy consuming behaviors in the workplace by turning off lights when leaving a room, putting the computer into sleep mode when going to lunch, etc. So a lot of it was behavior changes. So each building formed their own energy team, which was the driving force of the project and the competition. It was a key group of individuals drawn picked amongst the employees. The team received the support and training needed to carry out the simplified energy audit of their building. Next slide, please. On the basis of the energy audit, the staff was supported in drawing up an action plan of low cost and behavioral changes measures, as well as longer term measures for possible investments in the building renovation. On the back of this action plan, each energy team in each participating building ran an information campaign tailor-made for their building amongst their colleagues, encouraged them to look at any reducing of energy consumption they could find. And to help them, we created an online tool. Next slide, please. This online tool, let's see, I was confused. This is the energy saving tool. We built it and used it especially developed for the competition, and asked the energy teams to regularly add the energy meter readings, and thereby they could show the staff how much energy the building was saving compared to the normal consumption previous years. So they got immediately feedback in their savings, which was one important thing. Next slide, please. We also provided the energy teams with energy saving tips. So every second week, they received a tip of the week. And it was all focusing on behavior changes and actions they could do in their building to prevent the unnecessary energy consumption. The energy tip was a two-pager with suggestions what to do and how to act, and the energy teams were asked to post them in visible places to ensure that everyone in the building was reading them. And one idea was to post them inside the toilet doors, which is a place where the staff might spend some time reading. So next slide, please. We also provided the energy teams with other useful tools to remind and to help the energy teams to push their employees in energy savings. So it was stickers with reminding messages, energy meters to monitor equipment, lux meters, chocolate treat, posters, door hangers, and many, many more things. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So here is one example, the dishcloth with a reminding message. One to remind about the correct temperature in the fridge, the freezer, in the room, in the washing machine, etc. The hot water boiler. And the green one is a reminder to fill the dishwasher properly before you start it to save energy. Next slide, please. I think you have, yeah, thank you. One participant produced these large stickers to the doors of the elevators to make people choose the stairs instead. And of course, if your elevator looks like this in your office, maybe you choose the stairs instead. Next slide, please. In the Swedish buildings, I found that the chocolate treat was the most successful tool. The cleaning staff used them to reward the people working in the building when they cleaned the office room. And whenever they came into a room where the lights were off and the computer were turned off during lunch, or when the offices were empty, they left a piece of chocolate on the working desk. And this worked well because everyone likes chocolate more or less. Next slide, please. So here is some results from the competition, because it was a competition and that was one of the important driving force in the project. On third place, we found the regional council in Smiltene in Latvia, who managed to save 19.5% energy. And the measures that worked well in their building was optimizing the heating system, some changes of office equipment and lighting, and of course, the engagement on the employees into energy saving activities. Next slide, please. On second place, I'm very proud to present Markaryd, the municipality building in Markaryd, who managed to save 20%. As you can see, it was very close between the third and second place. And they had done very similar things. They have optimized the heating and ventilation system. They optimized the lighting system to ensure it was turned off when nobody were in the area. They set energy saving mode on the computers and the other office machines, and they worked a lot with the chocolate feedback to the staff. And they had also strong support from the management, which I think also the Latvian participant also had, of course. Next slide, please. And the winner, it was the Belgium building Zemstegriet, and they managed to save 25%, which is a fantastic result. And as the other participants, optimizing of the heating system, that's a winning thing to look at. But also a very enthusiastic energy team, which helped the employees to do their very, very best. So 25%, it's absolutely fantastic without larger investments. So next slide, please. So thank you. That was what we wanted to present. And if you have any questions, please, you're welcome.
Thank you, Tekla and Lena. So this is very inspiring example and very inspiring for my own office. So thank you very much.
We can send you some of the tips if you wish.
Yes, please. Competition is very interesting to motivate people. There is a question in the chat by Bardrama. So she congratulates, great jobs for the results, the number of results. And she would like to know if there is also any other indirect co-benefits.
Maybe you
I think I can answer it, because we made we had some sort of researcher following the project, and I think a co-benefit was to the atmosphere at the working place with the energy teams. Made a good working environment, social working environment, because everybody were working towards the same goal. So I think it improved the social atmosphere as well in the buildings, because they sort of glued the staff together into one joint competition. So that would be a co-benefit.
Yeah, maybe if I can add, that's very important what Lena said. And as she already said, our colleagues from Green Dependent from Hungary had made very good analysis and a survey, so to say. And I just opened one of the reports, and there, for example, as a co-benefit, also 82% of the participant of this more than 17,000 people implemented also measures in their homes, for example. So the benefit is much bigger as for example, also the families were involved. But we analyzed all these issues in this survey.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Do you know if the employees bring these initiatives at home? So you answer, yeah, sure. And sometimes the initiatives go from home to workplace, from workplace to home, no?
Yeah.
Alors, Susanna says there is she's carrying out an green campaign in solar project in Italy, Spain, Greece, Lebanon, and she's very interested to have a look in your material. So do you know if there is more competitions like this, or in Europe maybe, or in other countries?
Yeah, I guess our we had several different kinds of this. This is for office buildings, but we had it also for neighborhoods. For example, this was also the question: bring this initiative home, and for example, from them home to the office places. And this competition is carried out by Green Dependent in Hungary on the long term. And also, of course, we try to bring this out to others, and we try to inspire maybe some offices or some companies to do this by themselves, and so we will work on. But we already had several of this, so there is no more funded kind of this competition, and very often then the companies do this by themselves, so they don't want to pay for this, so we cannot do it, but they do it then by themselves, maybe. Hopefully.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know that in France, this project is now funded by the National Energy Agency for mainly for neighborhood competitions.
Yeah.
And also a lot of local energy agencies are developing projects for at works also.
Yeah.
And I think I know it's based on these projects. So one picture showed different devices like energy meters and then what different types of other devices were used and which ones were identified to be used, accepted the most by the participants?
The most useful and most accepted tool was the chocolate treat. Actually, it was energy meters and so on. It works well, and it can be used to show how much energy some sort of equipment is using. But for making people change the behavior, it was more the soft examples that worked well. But for making, for instance, a night walk and check that everything is turned off, etc., you need no more than a paper and a pen to do that, to have a general, if you don't want to measure things. Lux meter could be very useful to show how much light there is in a room and how much light you need. Ordinary thermometers also. It doesn't have to be very complicated, but I say chocolate.
Yes. Do you think that using a collaborative words and action shifts the way of thinking? So instead of suffering for the saving, people were happy for the contribution?
Yeah, I guess as we said, that fun was always, and Lena speaks about chocolate. We had this breakfast. We had this. Of course, it changed their. If I understand the question correctly, of course, they changed their thinking and connected energy saving or energy sufficiency to something positive, and that I think is the most important message we have to say. Don't tell them, oh, you have to freeze, or you need to avoid this and that, but tell them, hey, you can do this, and then we have a chocolate, or we have a common breakfast, or let's talk about and have better. So that definitely changes the way of thinking and the state of mind regarding energy sufficiency, definitely.
Do you have any idea if they continued the saving in the following years to ensure that the campaign had long-standing effects?
Well, I have asked in the top 3 buildings we had in Sweden to see if it continues, and it does continue, but after a certain time it sort of fade out. You need to keep on reminding this kind of campaigns, so it doesn't last for years and years and years, especially not when people are shifting work. As long as you have the really enthusiastic people still working in the workplace, it works. But after some long time, you have to make reminders to have the long-standing effects.
Maybe to add, but what was still in the office buildings is that, for example, together we checked what is in the small kitchen rooms, what was with the printers, and so some actions still remain there and bring energy savings still. But of course, if you want to motivate people, you have to repeat this or go on with some motivating actions.
Okay.
The technical changes stay, but the soft changes needs reminders.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. So there is no more questions in the chat. Thank you very much, Lena and Tekla.
Thank you.
So we will now give the floor to Fiona Brucker from the Delors Institute, and Fiona will present the Fulfill project, which is the Euro Horizon 2020 project. So, Lena.
Right. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, good morning. Thank you for this very interesting project. I am going to talk about another Horizon 2020 project, which is called Fulfill, and it investigates fundamental decarbonization through sufficiency by lifestyle changes. And as opposed to the project we just learned about, it is already ongoing. Next slide, please. So we started last year, and we are still going on until September 2024. The aim of this project is to investigate the contribution that sufficiency can have to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in Europe, and to promote a stronger attention to demand-side drivers and measures in the EU's long-term emissions reduction strategy, mainly because today most energy and climate plans, both at national and at EU level, still tend to focus on supply-based and efficiency solutions, and ignore the large potential of demand-side measures that there is, even though we kind of see the narrative changing a little bit, which is great for the sufficiency perspective. For instance, in the last IPCC report, we saw sufficiency mentioned alongside with efficiency and consistency as a driver that is a lever that is necessary to fight the climate crisis. In Fulfill, we're also trying to concretely formulate policy recommendations, so to implement, to exploit the sufficiency potential in Europe. Next slide, please. So as the first step of the project, one thing that we're already accomplished now is that we were trying to build the basis in form of a literature review and defining indicators of sufficiency. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a glimpse to give you an understanding of what we're working with. Next slide, please. We've already heard about the definition of sufficiency, so I'm going to be quite short, but just so you know how we define sufficiency in Fulfill, we are talking about creating the social, infrastructural, and regulatory conditions for changing individual and collective lifestyles in a way that reduces energy demand and greenhouse gas emissions to an extent that they remain within planetary boundaries and simultaneously contribute to well-being. So basically, I guess most of you will be aware with Kate Walworth's donut economics. And what we are really talking about in Fulfill is to find the sweet spot, quite literally, in the donut. Basically to live a good life without destroying the planet. So neither falling short of the social foundation nor overshooting the ecological ceiling. Thereby we really focus on sufficiency as an overarching principle that enables structural change, but that also needs enabling structures. So it goes both ways. Next slide, please. So we really focus and Fulfill on the fact that sufficiency goes beyond individual change, because oftentimes, as it is a demand-side measure, there's lots of responsibility kind of handed over to the individual. What we like to really stress is that no individual operates in a vacuum. So basically, policies, infrastructures, but also social norms and many other things influence behavior. And if we want to lever behavior for climate action, we need to have a closer look at those infrastructures and regulatory conditions to see how our behaviors can be shaped in a way that they are more sufficient. So basically, there's still lots to be done in terms of our infrastructures and our policies. Like, for instance, there is still no taxation on kerosene. City infrastructure is often shaped for cars. One finding already is that changing some of these infrastructures is not necessarily expensive or complicated. Like, for instance, during COVID, many city studies so-called pop-up bike lanes, kind of like temporary bike lanes that were really inexpensive to implement, as well as speed limits is another example for a sufficiency measure that is really inexpensive, but it of course needs political will to be implemented. Next slide, please. On the left side here, I show you a picture of the OBS magazine. That's a French magazine that titles Liberté, Égalité, Sobriété, and asks, I translated it here, how to reconcile the green transition and social justice. And in the current discourse, I think, we think sometimes it is a little bit, again, there's lots of responsibility handed over to the individual. Like, for instance, measures such as everybody should reduce their heating or reduce the time in the shower disregards the fact that many Europeans already do what they can and already save as much energy as they can. So 8% of European households, according to Eurostat, already struggle to heat their homes in 2020, which was before the energy price crisis. So we're gonna have to take into account that the room for maneuver amongst Europeans varies greatly. And for some people, it's frankly not an option to reduce the heating. And this is also in line with the global numbers. So basically, the richest 10% emit around half of all emissions globally. And so one of the findings is that it is really necessary to focus on excess consumption and not consumption that is necessary for people to stay above the social foundation of the donuts that we've seen earlier. Next slide, please. Coming back to Fulfill, so this was a little bit of a glimpse into our first findings from the literature review. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what we do in the project. So basically, in order to find out how to get people to adopt a more sufficient lifestyle, we investigate barriers and enablers for sufficient lifestyles, which means what makes people adopt sufficient lifestyles, what makes it hard for people to adopt. And we also take into account the rebound and spillover effects, as well as impacts on health, well-being, and gender. So earlier there was a question in the chat about these other benefits, so to say, and in Fulfill we really do take those into account as well. So for instance, if you have less cars in a city, that of course it also is less noisy and the air quality is going to be better. So it might be a higher quality of life on top of saving lots of CO2 emissions. And to do that, we analyze sufficiency on a micro, meso, and macro level, which means that we look at households and individuals. They're surveyed by us several times and their individual footprints are measured. We also work with local initiatives to see what we can learn from them and what they would need to do more of what they do. So basically, local initiatives working in sufficiency would be things like carpooling clubs or repair cafes or even eco-villages. And finally, the macro level means that we compare sufficiency policies across EU countries. And we also do a comparison with India in order to be able to see what we can learn from a non-European context and to see if we can upscale our findings. And finally, we are going to do a big macroeconomic evaluation of the impacts of these sufficiency measures on climate, economy, and society. And basically, yeah, to have an assessment on the, to see if the climate and energy, as well as health and gender impact, like what they are in terms of numbers, and to see if we can upscale them to use them for the decarbonization pathways towards reaching the Paris Agreement. Next slide, please. Throughout the project, we are also communicating with citizens as well as other stakeholders. So we have several citizen science workshops planned. The first one's going to be in February. Some of them are with young people. Some of them are just with the general public. Some again are with individuals that are part of these initiatives that I talked about earlier. And of course, some are stakeholders from the EU and other policymakers. And we are trying to get to validate the policy recommendations, also have people have their say early on so that we can make sure the project has the widest impact possible. And finally, like we do today, we're also communicating about the project and trying to spread the word, like this seminar is called about sufficiency and its potentials. And next slide, please. And just to give you, to wrap up, some faces behind of the we that I use now throughout this presentation. You can see us, as a big part of the team during the consortium meeting we had just now in November in Paris. So this picture was taken during a sufficiency walk that we did through the city of Paris, looking at some nice examples how Paris is giving people the infrastructural opportunity to be more sufficient. If you are curious, you can check out our Twitter for some of the very interesting facts. Yes, we're an interdisciplinary consortium with uniting academia, applied research, NGOs, and think tanks, and with partners from Germany, Italy, France, Denmark, and Latvia. And as I said, empirical research is also done in India on top of these countries. Next slide, please. And that was the quick presentation for Fulfill, and I'm happy to hear your questions. And of course, you can check out the project website if you're curious.
Thank you very much, Fiona. This is a very interesting project, and it shows very clearly that individual changes need collective changes if you want to succeed. And I think it's also very interesting to focus on overconsumption, maybe to address people. I think sufficiency is not very sexy for people. So if you focus on the opposite, on overconsumption, it seems to have a good results.
Yeah, I very much agree. I think this is one of the key findings, again, that we need to bring the social justice aspect in there, because generally speaking, there was this great study done by Lucas Chancellor, I think, from the World Inequality Lab. Basically, it shows that like the low percentage that's like
sorry, Fiona, but there is a problem with the macro. Can you repeat your last sentence?
Yes, of course. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
And it basically shows that the people with lower incomes are already at our saving targets, so to say, in most countries. So we really need to focus on this excess consumption and try to make rules that we can all stay within planetary boundaries without having to reduce things like heating that are just necessary for people. I mean, yes.
Okay, thank you. There is a question in the chat. Alors, do you think the generation electricity energy from hydrogen and plastic waste can support reduction GHG emissions. So it's a question more focused not on sufficiency, but on the production of energy. So maybe I think the question is about clean energy. But is it clean? I don't know, from hydrogen and plastic waste.
Yeah. I'm not sure I understand the question well, but what I can just maybe quickly about hydrogen. I mean, this is in the discussion of sufficiency. Like an easy way out would be to just make all of energy and electricity kind of like carbon neutral and clean. And I think we can we say that this is not going to happen. So we really need to put down the energy demand first. And then it's kind of like, you can imagine it like a pyramid. So the first thing, like the big chunk, is really we need to reduce the demand. And even as I said earlier in the IPCC report, they are now admitting that we really need to reduce the demand. And it's not going to be enough to just change to renewables or change to carbon neutral sources of energy. And especially hydrogen is kind of what we call the champagne of energy production. So like it really should only be used where it can't be replaced by anything else.
Okay, thank you. I think that's important to raise this, the energy demand at first. This is important to have the step in the right order.
Exactly. First, demand needs to go down, and then we can see what we do with the rest of the energy we still need. But there's no way we can keep doing what we do and just replace everything with carbon neutral sources of energy.
Okay, so thank you, Fiona. There are no more questions in the chat for the moment. So maybe let's go to the energy sufficiency game. Mariangela, I give you the floor.
I still have slides for Fiona. I don't know if she wants to go through them.
Yeah, sorry. No, they were just in case questions would need them. We could not just skip them.
Okay, then I'll skip them. Thank you. Okay. Oh, wait. Okay, so now we start our little quiz. Just to have you engaged with us. So we prepared this very quick quiz. Is about measures that you could do to save energy in a general office. Of course, we do realize that each office is different and you cannot implement the exact same measures everywhere. They must be tailored. This is just an example to see and to play with you on what we can do to foster energy sufficiency. So imagine this floor. It's on the first floor. Imagine this office. It's at the first floor. You have more or less every day 5 employees and 1 manager at the office. So in total 6 persons at the office. The lighting system is still using halogen lamps. And in order to keep the office warm, the usual temperature is around 22 degrees in all rooms during winter, of course. You also have meeting conference room, but you usually have conferences or meeting only once a month. Then it's a public office, so you have to follow public procurement rules, and the award criterion in this example is the best value for money. Here you have a very ugly picture. I realize that, but it's just to have you to give you a map of this ideal office. So you see here you have 2 meeting rooms, 1 large, 1 small, and then 3 office spaces, all with at least 3 seats, let's say 3 desks, and then 2 rooms for managers or directors. You have stairs and you have an elevator. You also have, of course, toilet. It's an office, and you have the fridge, a printer, a sort of storage room. So this is the game. I give you 1 minute to analyze a bit the space. and then we can start with it. So first of all, join the quiz at slido.com and please add this code in order to join the quiz. But wait a moment, somebody started the quiz already. This is just me and my colleagues testing the quiz beforehand, so ignore the names that are here. So are you there? I don't. Okay, I see people joining. Okay, so we start the quiz. First question, considering the average number of persons in the office, which is the best option among the ones below to guarantee energy sufficiency? Please bear in mind that most of the questions, most of the answers will still focus on energy efficiency measures, but only one answer is the correct one to foster energy sufficiency. So ideally, you should have now on your screen the possibility to answer. If you go on Slido. Okay, so I see the quiz stopped, and most of you answered the fourth question. Theoretically, now you should see the correct one. So congrats to the one of you that answered the correct one. And okay, so far in your the first three, as I mentioned, those are my colleagues. Sorry, we did not manage to delete them. But the first one today is Liz. So move to the second question. What else could you do to make the heating system energy sufficient? So most of you answer set temperature at 29 degrees. And indeed, it's the correct answer. So well done again. And we still have Liz leading the game. So considering the average number of meetings conference per month, which I remind you it's 1, which is the best option among the ones below to guarantee energy sufficiency in heating? Okay, so most of you answered the third question, which should be the correct one, of course. So congrats again. And so far, the winner is still Liz. So how could you improve the efficiency of the lighting system? Okay, so last question, last answer is the correct one. Here we pass directly to the last question. In alignment with the national and European laws governing public procurements, what could be done to support a long-term energy sufficiency vision? So, sorry, that was not the last question. This is, promise. So what other actions can be taken to increase energy savings and guarantee energy sufficiency? Okay, so here you are a bit undecided. And apparently no one selected all of the above, which was the correct answer. Nonetheless, we see that Liz is actually the first one. Congratulations, Liz. And this was actually it from our side. So if you still have questions, I pass back the floor to Marilo.
So congratulations to everybody. And thank you, Mariangela. Thank you, Tekla, for this e-sufficiency game. Very interesting. I think we will use it another time also. So just a quick conclusion to this webinar. As we can, sufficiency is very well addressed, really, I think, by many stakeholders and also now by a lot of European projects. So this is very interesting because now we will have a lot of materials, a lot of information to get through this project. We saw this morning that energy sufficiency is an answer both to energy crisis, to climate crisis also. And we see more that it's not only the decreasing of temperature, the cutting of public lighting or so on, but it's energy sufficiency is really a smart option. It's social innovation and with a lot of co-benefits. So now our objective will be to go beyond emergency sufficiency measures and to work to put in place long-term strategies for energy sufficiency. But I guess with people like our presenters and also our participants, we will succeed it. So I thank you very, very much, our speakers, well, very smart speakers for this morning, and also all participants. And we hope to see you in the next webinar, maybe next year. So, and have a great, Happy New Year and so on. I give you the floor, Mariangela, for the final words.
Thank you, Marilo, for moderating the session, and thank you, of course, of all the speakers to join us and present very interesting projects. Thank you to the participants, and have a nice day, Merry Christmas, or Happy Winter Holidays. Bye-bye.